We're thieves, but we help the wrong person steal the wrong thing and unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known.
The Red Wizards created an army of the undead.
Sounds lovely.
Quite the opposite.
I know, I was being ironic.
I find irony is a blade that cuts he who wields it most especially.
You're not a lot of fun, are you?
Da, 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 da! You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy! Are you serious? Ladies and gentlemen! It's showtime.
What is up, Man Fam? This is Mad About Movies. You guys know that because you're the Man Fam. That's cool. Great open, Brian. We are talking Dungeons and Dragons this week. I'm all wheels off right off the bat, so you know it's going to be a good episode. This is a movie that has been feels like it's been in the making for quite a while. We've had previous attempts at Dungeons and Dragons movies. This one doesn't involve Marlon Wayans, so take that as you will. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that's a good thing. Only
what about
time will tell.
Sean?
Yeah, could be Sean Wayans too. I'm your host, Brian Gill. I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host, Richard Barton. Richard is back from the mountains, and he's here home in DFW. He's ready to nerd out with me. We're gonna get real into the specifics of Dungeons and Dragons, the game. I think we're not even gonna talk about the movie. I just want to. This is actually a plan to get you to play Dungeons and Dragons. So
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm not gonna have a lot to contribute there.
We'll see. It'll be fun. Kent is not here tonight. Kent sent us some really aggressive, mean texts about how he's not a nerd and he's not going to talk about the nerd dragon movie.
And then he accidentally sent us his search history.
Yeah, and then we can't share that.
Yeah, so he's taking
lots of reasons, but
both were Dungeons and Dragons related. We can say that.
Yes. Yeah. We'll have to post the rest in the VIP.
Yeah. Pervert.
I don't want to get the FCC on our backs yet again. So Kent's not here. Pinch hitting for him. So much better. We have our good friend Megan Spells. Megan, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. I'm good. Meg came in kind of at the last minute, but also Meg used to be the dungeon master of our Dungeons and Dragons group.
Hold on. I'm
quite qualified.
In my real life, I'm a strategist, and I always try to think of things that correlate, right? These two narratives, how we can bring insights together, bring these to one. So you were telling me, hold on, let me get the room is spinning, that the person that ran our Dungeons and Dragons lead was also available on short notice.
Richard, this is so embarrassing. It's not called a league, it's called a party. So
oh, you're right. I'm embarrassed. Yeah. I'm mortified. I'll just see myself out. Wow, I did not see that coming. Okay.
Yes. So Meg, thank you for filling in over the pandemic.
Thanks for moving aside your schedule for us.
I had to cancel a lot of stuff for this. So honestly, you're welcome.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of Lego building and such. So,
I actually had to cut back. It was getting
I'm sure.
Man, there was. God, I'll tell this quick story. He's a lovely guy. I work with a couple guys that are hardcore D&D, like old school D&D guys that write parties and stuff.
Yeah.
Missions.
Campaigns.
Campaigns. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. And one guy who's a creative director, really smart guy, who I need to preface this, I sincerely really like. But we were on this call and we were going over this campaign, not Dungeons and Dragons, an actual advertising campaign. And he decided to I asked just one of those questions, this will kill a minute while everyone joins the call, and I'm like, hey, don't you build your own maps on in some sort of 3D thing? And he's like, I do for this campaign I'm building. And I was like, cool. And then he proceeded to as everyone's joining this call to walk me through a 14-minute demo of this digital map he built, which was impressive, but I don't care or understand it. And I forgot I was screen sharing, because I was I was giving a brief to him and his team about all of it, and all these messages keep coming to my team's please kill me, make him stop. Oh my God. And he sees them. To his credit, he handled it great. He was very pleasant and lovely about it, but I felt so bad. But it was, and I'm just I'm sorry. I just thought it'd be a 30-second question. This nerd won't shut up.
That's great. That's
Anyway,
great. The digital world that we find ourselves in, Richard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Meg and I played in a D&D league, if you will. We were in a campaign together over the pandemic, which was a good time and a great way to, blow off the time that we had to fill with literally nothing to fill it with. So it was fun to do that. So I'm glad you're here, Meg. Thanks for being a part of this and filling in for Kent. Let's do this first, because I'm curious. This should be fun because Richard has no background on this at all.
I make up for it in my background with Hugh Grant, though, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. We all have our attachments to this thing.
Yeah.
So this game.
I run Hugh Grant campaigns with my friends. We just come up, we roll dice and figure out just things he could get into.
Yeah.
Who he could offend.
Right.
Etc.
Yeah, Ashley Graham on the red carpet was actually you guys.
Yeah, I manifested that.
Sort of willing it into existence. Let's start. I'll give you my background, and then Meg, I want to get yours a little bit. And then,
by the way, greatest red carpet ever. By the way, I would say it's the most useful red carpet content I've ever gotten.
It's a lot of good.
It was a good time. I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. This I've said before on the show. My dad was a sort of an amateur science fiction writer. My mom and my dad were both really into this stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, and what at the time was called science fiction conventions, but now I think we'd probably call Comic-Cons. That was a big player amongst them and their group of friends in like the late 80s into the early 90s especially and stuff. So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons probably when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8, and played on and off through up until about high school, and then kind of fell out of it and whatnot.
When you weren't dating.
Yeah, I had a very busy social calendar, and it was starting to take over. I will say this. There's not many things that I've done in my life where I'm like, I'm kind of embarrassed that I did that. It's not the Dungeons and Dragons. The thing that I did was one time in high school, I had, like the classmate that you're like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say friends necessarily, but like, we talk to each other every day in class and we get along better than maybe most of the other people in class. That's fine. He found out that I had played some growing up, and he's like, dude, I have a group. We play on whatever night, and we'd love for you to come. It's like, you know what? Sure. I haven't done this in several years. It is a lot of fun. It's very nerdy and everything, but it is a good time. Yeah, I can do that. I'll go. And I went, and again, I've never had any delusions of being like a super cool person or anything like that. But I parked, and I kind of, you did the thing where like, I don't want to get there right on time. I'm going to kind of scope out the situation. And the next like 5 or 6 people that went into the house, I was like, I can't do this. And I just left. So I just didn't, I just totally bailed based on who was going in to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like I can't.
Were they costumed?
Yeah. They're all jocks. All of them.
No, but seriously, were they
You were
like
intimidated.
just the level of commitment that scared you away, or?
It was just like, man, this is, again, not feeling ever like I have a lot
Got
of...
it. You were like, I'm not cool, but I am cooler than this.
Yeah. To the extent that I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I also assumed maybe it probably wasn't going to maybe smell great in that room too.
Yeah.
That was a little bit
That's
of
a thing.
That was a factor.
That's got to be
that I
overcome
had to
for sure.
put into this. But anyway, I grew up playing the game and I really loved it. And I've come back to it a couple of times. The pandemic, we did that. There was a short stretch, I think, like right after I moved back to this area, we played a little bit. It has always been a really fun time. It is, it deserves the sort of nerdy vibe that it has and the reputation, but it is also a blast. And I will always say, I feel like the critical thinking that goes into it and the problem solving is, I think is a good thing that a lot of kids probably could like. I'm going to push Coop to play this at some point because I think that it does build your ability to strategize and things like that,
For
which
sure.
a lot of kids these days genuinely do not have. But anyway, it's been a fun
outside
time.
of a video game construct, right?
Yeah, for sure. I, like in my real job, one of the things I do is like there's an event that we host every spring where it's essentially an amazing race that they have. It's like part scavenger hunt, part, minute to win it, all this kind of stuff. And it is amazing the number of, 10 and 11-year-olds who cannot problem solve like pretty basic stuff. And so, not that Dungeons and Dragons would solve all of that, but I think there's something to be said for, hey, maybe the video games all the time aren't the best. Like maybe there needs to be a little bit more strategy involved and stuff. So anyway, very long-winded way to say I really do like and have enjoyed Dungeons and Dragons quite a bit through my life. And this was something that I was looking forward to and was interested to see how they were going to make this appealing to mass audiences while also appealing to the kind of hardcore D&D guy. So, Meg, I don't remember what your background is on this when we played together.
So I have almost the exact opposite story from yours, which is in 2019, like some of my friends had moved away from the area and I was like, I really want to play D&D. I was like listening to a D&D podcast. I'd never played before, but I had it in my head that I wanted to play. And one of my friends who doesn't live in town and doesn't play D&D is like, I know some people who play. You can just go over there and like see what it's about. So on a random Wednesday night, I drove to a stranger's house and now I live with one of them. So that's how I met my partner, which is funny. He was the DM and and here we are.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. See, my life could have been totally different if I would have gone in that room.
Who knows?
Man. Bad news, dude. It was Dua Lipa was the dungeon master that the one you didn't
You
go
and
to,
Dua
Brian.
Lipa are like the same age, right, Brian?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Definitely.
Not sure Dua Lipa has an age. I think we're
That's true.
Okay.
Celestial bodies and stuff. Okay, well that's fun. I'm glad that good for you, Meg. I'm glad you did that.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you
Thank you.
you had the courage to step into.
It is funny because it is something like that feels very pre-pandemic, early 20s to me. And now the idea of just walking into a home full of people I don't know is mind-boggling. But hey,
I love it.
you do.
I love it. That's great. Richard, you have
What's up?
no background with this whatsoever.
I honestly
none.
thought it
Like,
was
where's that?
Warhammer. I thought they were the same thing until recently. But I will say, I want to preface this. I also like memorize cities' subway maps. So like I'm not a nerd. I always want to make sure like I don't judge the level of nerds. Like when I'm when I'm bored, I memorize maps and stuff. So we all have our things. So like no judgment on it. Just was not in my particular nerd wheelhouse. So yeah, I think I thought it was they all kind of ran together
For sure.
I wouldn't say 6 months ago. In the last few years, I started to understand that there was like an improv / to your point, strategy, world building element that you had to think on the fly. I was aware of that within the last couple years. So like I knew of it and then like did kind of follow this because like the directors were interesting with like John Francis Daley and stuff.
Right.
Chris Pine can like go either way. Like, is this Chris Pine just doing a leading man paycheck role? Or is this like his more interesting kind of later career stuff? I'm not, the Hugh Grant thing. I love Hugh Grant, but like, that's an interesting, like, why would he do this? And then it starts to come together. Like, is this, my question was leading up to it with the trailer and everything was like, to what level is this going to be self-aware and fun? And so we ran, that was answered. So I was actually interested in this, even though the property, I didn't know. I think I thought it was a card game, like I said, until 2.5, 3 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
Is Warhammer a card game?
I think Warhammer is something I used to have people that were related to me by marriage in my house, like step siblings and stuff, and they painted figurines. Was that Warhammer?
Probably.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was like I remember these micro things that people would do. And then there was also magic. I knew magic. That was cards. These things were kind of around. And then I would just put on headphones and go shoot baskets in my driveway in 30-degree weather for 5 hours. Again, also nerdy.
Right. Right. Warhammer is just a different kind of RPG. I mean, but yes, it's a similar concept. It's just it's not in this kind of.
What's in my head? It's more difficult. There's more rules.
Sure.
I never really played Warhammer. I was always.
What's the little figurine one? I know people are screaming.
This probably Warhammer. Yeah.
Is
Warhammer. Okay. I mean, look, you can do that with D&D too. You can do that with most RPGs, but like. I think Warhammer, a big part of it, at least from my kind of outside feeling, was that the minis and the painting and the figures and all, like, that was a huge part of the whole experience. So, whereas like when Meg and I, when we were in our D&D group, like we were, it was all digital. So we're like just looking at.
It's like to me, it's like the people that play Monopoly with like the digital currency versus the paper money.
Sure. Yeah, that works. Yeah, that's good.
Cool.
But when I was growing up, I mean, that was my parents' D&D group. They had not to the level that the average Warhammer person has of the minis, the figures and stuff. But we had a box full of them, and that was part of the I don't know, the props for playing the game or whatever. But so you can do it either way.
It always seemed kind of cool to paint the little guys.
Yes,
my stepdad was great. He would he had like a, Brian's met him a couple times. He's an engineer. So he had like the cool drafting desk with like the crazy magnifying thing attached to it.
Yeah.
He was like built to be a Warhammer dad. I just remember him in there with my stepbrother just painting these things all the time.
Warhammer came a little later. At least it's like its big cultural push, I guess, came a little bit later. D&D was, I think, by the time that I was in, I don't know, like by the time I was 10, I think D&D was on its like third iteration or second iteration, and it was kind of struggling to keep its foothold or its market share or whatever else. But it also is the one that there were RPGs before it, but is the one that sort of was the first to like capture the cultural attention, I think, through all of its devilry and witchcraft. And
that's going to be the rest of the podcast.
That's it. Yeah, this is all a ruse to talk about Satanic Panic stuff, which would be a fun time as well. All right, let's talk about the movie. You brought it up, Richard. So we'll go to you first. You were sort of anticipating this by the time I got to it, but I think also same as me. I think I was more interested in just the writer-director team. How are they going to do this? Chris Pine post "Don't Worry, Darling," all of those things. As much as I was like, hey, they're making a Dungeons and Dragons movie. So, general thoughts here on Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
I can go first.
Yeah, from you. That's what.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I missed that.
No worries. No worries.
I very much enjoyed it. I mean, it's like, I don't know to the level. Again, it was hard. It's hard to go into those things. I think maybe because Avengers didn't really have that because it built so gradually.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to think of something that has a huge fan base that I've kind of come in on cold and like I enjoyed it, but I didn't honestly get the feeling I was missing much. Of course, I'm sure I was.
Sure.
But I felt like they did a really good job doing the like Old Navy Gap Banana Republic thing where I'm very much in the Old Navy probably.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's probably content for you guys, and there's probably content for whatever. But I thought the angle coming in with this sort of self-awareness with it was right the only way I would enjoy this. But there was also real thrills and real stakes and all that stuff, it felt. So it pulled all that off.
Sure. Okay. What about you, Meg? What are your general thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I liked it as well. I mean, I think going into it, I am a fan of D&D, but I do feel like D&D movies have a reputation of being, pretty cursed.
For sure.
So,
man, that deleted scene from the one, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, the 2001, there's like a deleted scene with Justin Whalen. Have you seen this? I'll try to find it.
No, I haven't.
They just didn't finish the blue screen, so like this weird thing lays an egg and then it like just is I don't know, it's hard to it's great.
Yeah, well, so that was, I'm not saying that's what I expected, but I will say I went in with middle to low expectations and I had a really good time. I mean, I think You know, I was going in and I was like, okay, I don't want to get too excited, but I really liked Game Night and how that was made, and you know, a lot of the jokes in that. So I was looking forward to that aspect, and I think, you know, it's not exactly, you know, hard to say, wow, probably the best D&D movie ever. But I really enjoyed it, and I left and I was like, okay, I would like gladly watch this again. And there were, you know, jokes that, you know, stuck with me. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that they were very wise to make an entertaining, fun movie to start with, and then sort of wrap the D&D aspect of it kind of around a premise that is interesting and funny, and with a cast of actors who are pretty interesting and funny, for the most part. Speaking of, Meg, you were like at the premiere for this thing, so you were within a certain distance of Chris Pine.
I was
himself,
across the aisle and 1 seat away from Chris Pine.
Wow. And you're still here. Did you look on his face, or did you shade your eyes?
Yeah,
I'll give a quick. The amount of text I got to spit on him was. I mean, it was the opportunity to do the funniest thing I could ever do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not, because it was the first day of the festival, and I was like, I'll get kicked out and I'll miss this whole thing. If it was the last day, I can't promise.
Did you see that tweet, or a couple people tweeted leading up to the Oscars that was like, if Chris Rock goes up tonight, I hope someone realizes they have the chance to do the funniest thing ever tonight.
Exactly. So the questions I've gotten about Chris Pine, because he walked right past me. What did he smell like? I don't have a good answer. I stopped.
That was my first question too. He seems like he smells good.
I couldn't answer. I was stone cold and unable to breathe in and out.
Sure.
Before the movie, he turned his phone all the way off, not just on Do Not Disturb, all the way off.
Respect that move.
And then anytime Regé John Page did anything in the movie, he leaned all the way over the aisle and like pointed at him and was really having a good time. So big clapper, applause, laughing at all the right moments.
Did you see the movie, engaged. Or were you only locked in on Chris?
I will say, for the first 30 seconds when we're still getting logos, my friend like elbowed me and she's like, you have to stop staring at Chris Pine. And I was like, I can watch this movie when it comes out in theaters. I'm not going to see him again.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I did end up watching the movie, but it was difficult.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I'm glad that he lived up to I love Chris Pine. I've been very high on Chris Pine for since that first Star Trek movie is one of my favorite.
He's great in that. He's such a movie star in that.
Of the century, as
for
it were.
me, it's Princess Diaries 2, but to each their own.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. He's great. And he does seem to. I mean, we got a great taste of it last year with Don't Worry, Darling, like I mentioned. But there's been other times. He may be the person that you can say he's been in bad movies, but he's never bad in a movie.
Yeah,
I think, which is a great skill to have, at least in terms of your longevity in this whole thing. When you can be as beautiful as he is, and also kind of never just stay, sort of surf above the bad stuff that is in whatever movie you've chosen. You're gonna have a long career in front of you. So I think that will serve him well. Let's get into this thing here a little bit here. I'll start with the cast since we started with Pine. Pine's great. I was very surprised, if I'm being honest. Here's my fear coming into this, and then I'll tell you what I felt like it actually turned into. The trailer's not so good. Not such a great
Who's
trailer.
making trailers right now?
I know. Our friend Tanner, and then everyone else is terrible. I think that's what it's got to be. Yeah.
So we just haven't seen Barbie trailer yet?
Barbie's great. Barbie's an incredible trailer. I have to assume that our friend Tanner did that one.
Have you seen the Air trailer? Counterpoint.
I've seen the Air movie.
Right. It's great.
I don't think I saw the trailer.
The trailer is so bad.
So bad. Yeah. So bad. Really gave vibes of like a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
Air did, and then it's 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it's apparently a great movie.
It very much is like advertising for dads.
Yeah, it totally is. Richard made a great point about the Air when it first came out. Was this is an R-rated movie, maybe a hard R movie, and they're cutting what they can for a PG trailer because that's what trailers got to be. So maybe that's part of it. But gosh, awful trailer, just really genuinely awful trailer. And then apparently the movie's really good. This I don't think it was quite as bad. But it's not a very good trailer. And my concern coming in was like, I freaking love Chris Pine. He rules. I love Hugh Grant, but you mentioned it, Richard. Like Hugh, you are Hugh Nation personified. You love Hugh Grant, I think, more than anyone else.
Yeah, the great movie star of my life.
Yeah, you would acknowledge that he is very capable of a paycheck role where he's not.
I agree with you, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like in the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just talking about like what
Hugh
was.
Grant would admit that he's done.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
No, totally.
Sure.
I grant you that totally. But even like the ones he did, like he did music and lyrics. He really likes that writer, and then he did that other one that no one saw. Where
music
he's like,
and lyrics is not a throwaway movie or a throwaway role.
First of all, it's a masterpiece. I agree with you, but I would say consensus on that would be not great. It's one of the great films of all time, but I'm with you. But then he did the other one. I forgot what it's called, where he's a professor with Marissa Tomei. It's the same writer, so it's more like. And then I think that same writer also did. Did we hear about the Morgans? So like, it's more like he gets. He just likes working with certain people.
For sure. No, I think there's something to that.
But yes, my 2000s Hugh for sure.
Sure. So when I look at this cast and I see this trailer and I thought, man, Chris Pine's great, but like, again, love Hugh. He can definitely mail one in on you.
Yeah, for sure.
Justice Smith has been terrible in movie, just terrible, just really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
We love Michelle Rodriguez because of the Fast movies, but there are plenty of performances, I think,
I can't
in her
even think
filmography.
of a movie where she's not in a Fast and Furious movie that I've seen.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of Avatar, but like Lost, she was on Lost. You can definitely pick. You can say
Machete kills, bro. Machete.
Not sure about the performance level on this. I think my biggest concern was that we were going to wind up. This was going to wind up feeling like a special effects heavy Netflix movie where they spent the whole budget on one or two actors, and then that's what I think always kills the Netflix movies for me now is wow, look at the stars on this, and then they're like, yeah, we spent $4 on the script, which I didn't think was going to be a problem.
He's
here
right behind me, isn't he?
Yeah, because we like these guys, but like, hey, even the third build actor in this movie is not like capable of being good in a high school production. You know what I mean? Like that's what we tend to end up. I as somebody who maybe the only person who's not watched Bridgerton, I don't really get the Regé-Jean Page thing. Like the couple of times I've seen him, that Gray Man movie he was real bad in it.
I saw that movie. So, I could not have told you he was in that.
Yeah. I know. So like I had some concern.
Held out for another season of Bridgerton. He jumped pretty quick.
Okay, yeah. I didn't watch any of it.
I remember reading about it and thinking they like offered him an offensively low amount, and I think he just was like, okay,
totally.
Screw you. But they could have come to an agreement there.
In a vacuum, I'm just saying, like he wasn't. He might be very talented. He could have used it. What's that Australian soap opera that everyone's
Neighbors.
on? Neighbors. Yeah, he could have used some Neighbors seasoning for a few years, and before everyone's like, no, he's James Bond right now, and it's like,
right. Let's see it. That's
Throw
all
on
I'm saying.
Neighbors. It's like our farm team.
Right.
We should just send handsome people to Neighbors for a few years and just say, we're signing you to a 2-year +1 contract on Neighbors.
It's a good idea. I actually like this. But coming in, that's kind of my concern. And pretty quickly within the first 10, 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I kind of get where we're going here. Like, we'll see about the acting as it goes, which actually I think turned out quite well over the course of this. But there was, I think John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein deserve a lot of credit for writing a really good script, a really fun script, a script that has a lot of life to it. A script that I think like seems to really understand the project that they're working on here, which is good. Like identity is a big part of is a script good, is a movie good, all that sort of stuff. And putting all of these actors in a position to just be to play off the charm of Pine, I think that helps. I think when you have a center of gravity like that, I think it can help everybody else. But I feel like they were all put in really good positions to succeed, and as a result, I didn't walk out feeling like any of them were poor casting choices or lesser than the rest. It really did feel like a pretty solid ensemble with maybe a heavy hitter or two at the top. But I don't know. How do you feel about that, Meg? How do you feel about the acting came together, the performances, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it came together well, and I think, I mean, it's funny because, like, I'd say, like, Richard, you know all about this. The D&D party stereotype is that everyone's just kind of like filling their role, and I think everyone understands that, like, Chris Pine is like the face of this.
Sure.
We're gonna just like kind of be
totally get it.
Locked totally in and serviceable, and I think there's nothing wrong with that here.
For sure.
Like, I didn't come out of this being like, wow, you know, Justice Smith and Sophia Lillis are like huge stars, but I wasn't offended.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not sure that I would go out and buy Justice Smith stock, especially having seen him in a couple of other movies. But
I'm trying to think, Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, he's in the Jurassic movies too. Which that's not anybody's
fault.
That's
not on him. Yeah, you can't put that on him. That's unfair, Brian. You take that back. He's a great actor.
He certainly doesn't. He's not bringing anything up. But yeah, I think you're right, Meg. There's something to be said for just fill the role. Just do what you're supposed to do here, and then actually, I think Michelle Rodriguez was pretty dang good. Like, this was a. I
mean, she was like the emotional heart of the movie.
Yes, absolutely,
for sure was.
Did not expect that.
Me neither.
Did not see that one coming. So she did a great job on that. Richard, this is your opportunity to talk about Hugh Grant, if you'd like, in this performance. Anything that
masterful as usual.
Okay.
He is on a heater though right now.
The like Paddington, like this has been good.
The Undoing. I mean, we are on a Hugh heater. This is the new reconnaissance.
Yeah.
We're doing 50.
He was in that show where he was like an English politician. I can't remember the name of that one.
Oh, the Very British Scandal.
Yes.
Wonderful
He was also
show.
like evil in that. He's good. He's good when he's bad.
Yeah. Anything that gets him on a press tour, I'm a fan of. Good, bad, or indifferent. But it's nice when the movies are good. And he's great. And we're doing like 90 Batman now with all this Warner Brothers stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Can we get one where he's Alfred?
Yeah, it's the multiverse, bro.
Yeah.
We should.
Where he's sort of a sarcastic, cutting Alfred. Yeah.
Just kind of mean-spirited, but you're not sure if he's mean-spirited.
Exactly. He thinks it's absurd that Batman does this because he's rich. Right. I mean, but still, but he comes through at the end. You know, he comes around that he's of service, not just to Batman, but to the community of Gotham. Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, he's choosing stuff really well. He's someone I just don't think he cared because he loves to like play golf and have kids. I think he's got like 100 kids and race cars and stuff. But he's a really good. The reason he's good is that he's a really good writer. And people always talk about he always rewrites all of his lines, and like kind of makes that mandatory if he's going to do it. And it'd be awesome if he wrote a movie. Like he's like Affleckian to me, where it's like he could probably be an awesome director or writer, but he's never going to do it because he's never going to work more than 3 weeks at a time. But
right, yeah.
I think he has really good taste in a weird way, and I think he was able to recognize whatever this was early, which is hilarious.
Yeah, you can definitely see, like I said at the outset, this could have been a real money grab kind of movie, but I think that these two have a lot of almost, I don't know what the term, they have cred, I think, at this point. John Francis Daley and Goldstein. I think Game Night, I loved Game Night. That was a great movie. We all liked it on this show. And it made a decent amount of money. Not it wasn't like a huge hit or anything, but I think the rep on that is pretty substantial. People really dig it. And they wrote the Spider-Man movie, and I think the script is a really good part of that movie. That's
for sure.
Something that's really stands out.
I think
this is a high degree of difficulty.
Cred.
Yeah,
for sure, which is amazing. I mean, I'm super happy for John Francis Daley. It is always hilarious to me to think of he's the little brother in Freaks and Geeks, and then he's just on Bones for 6 seasons or something.
You've seen enough.
I've seen them all.
Seen them all.
I've
seen the last 2 minutes of all of them.
Is this a joke?
No, I watched every episode of Bones for like the first, 7 seasons, something like that. Back when there was
Big
like,
Bones guy.
there was unlimited free time. I didn't have kids and stuff.
And that was how he chose to fill it.
That's how I chose to fill it. Yeah. I didn't have Dungeons and Dragons to play, you know? So it was, I kept trying to get you guys in my Dungeons and Dragons league, but you wouldn't do it. And, so I just filled the time with bones.
Real quick, I gotta tell my favorite. If you haven't seen, I don't know if you have, Brian. The Hugh Grant did that movie a few years ago with Meryl Streep, where she's the bad singer. Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yeah.
And the piano
you
player.
You gotta really limit. You gotta pare it down when you're talking about Meryl Streep not being able to sing.
Yeah, sorry, not Into the Woods. But also she did that, where she's a bad singer.
What about Mamma Mia? Was it?
No.
Okay, you're right.
Excuse me?
What's the one, Ricky?
Yeah, Ricky and the Flash.
Ricky and the Flash, yeah. Could have been that. Yeah. But anyway, Simon Helberg is in that, the guy from Big Bang Theory. Have you heard this story, Brian?
Yes, I have.
Where he's like he's the piano player in it, and Hugh Grant is like, I was being really condescending to him the whole time and trying to teach him how show business works, and I was taking him under my wing. And then about 7 weeks into the film, I realized he's the richest person I've ever met in my life because of all that Big Bang money.
Yep. Residuals for days, baby.
It's like such a great story. He's like, and so that I just started asking him for money. That's why Hugh Grant almost took over for the Charlie Sheen role.
Yeah.
Which would have been great. Probably. I actually probably would have watched that.
Would have been something.
Probably still be on. That sitcom money, man.
Just keeps going. Just keeps going. Richard, did you get the? I know you didn't, Meg, because you saw this at a world premiere because you're fancy. But did you get the pre-movie little bumper with the whole cast sitting down, thanking you for coming to the movie?
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't either, but I did enjoy.
Yeah,
I did enjoy Hugh just so very clearly reading off a prompter and could not have cared less about thanking us for coming to the movies. So
I agree.
That was a fun.
It's real. They're real thirsty.
It's like it was fine.
Yeah,
it was fine for Spider-Man No Way Home or really even like post Top Gun Maverick. We don't need to do this. We don't need to thank people for coming to
unless though. But I will say Tom Cruise should do that. For every movie
because he's doing this for us.
That's on brand for him. It's not on brand for these other people. But Tom Cruise earnestly thanking me for spending $15 to see him try to kill himself is
it means the world to him.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. And honestly, they could probably figure out a way to with like some kind of AI personalization where he says my name a few times.
Yeah, it'd be good. It'd be awesome. I just want to be on the cake list. That's all. That's all.
And wherever I'm sitting in the theater, his eyes turn to me. He's like, Richard, specifically you.
Thank you. You have supported me for
But
years.
Everyone sees that. You know, it's their version. That'd be cool. Some kind of glasses.
I like it. How did we feel about we've talked about the acting, we've talked about the I think the scripting with the dialogue and everything. How do we feel about the plotting of this thing and the adventures that our team has to go through to get to their end goal here? Meg, how do we feel about the way this all played out, like a D&D campaign?
Yeah, I think it was, pretty standard in a way. I mean, there weren't a lot of times where it was catching me off guard. I do think there was some cool stuff with like the heist shot sequencing that I liked. I do feel like sometimes it gets a little complicated being like, here's everyone's backstory and how everyone's tied in here. And everyone has to have like a growth moment where they learn how to do XYZ and level up. But in general, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would say it was relatively formulaic on those things. I thought the bit with the portal and putting it on the mirror and stuff inside the cart, I thought that was fun. That was a good sequence. I think that the movie does a good job once it gets to whatever stopping point we're gonna be at, whatever like way station along the way from A to Z. I think once you get to those points, they do a good job of throwing in some little cute differences, doing something a little bit off or unique, like having the dragon be fat and can't fly and everything. That was a funny a funny little bit. Yeah,
my favorite joke of the whole thing is Jonathan I think just the name Jonathan, because anyone who's ever played D&D before knows that the only way to name a character is to come up with a normal name and change one small thing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a great bit.
And
great
it's also, I mean, like, not to do too much inside baseball, but like,
yeah,
I feel like I've sat at a D&D table where you've been like, is there any way I could grab the bird and jump out the window?
Oh my gosh.
I think you would naturally try to fly.
Yeah. If you're gonna talk about Shane, you should probably just you should call him by what he's.
Spade's a spade. Shane would do that.
Good Lord. Our buddy Batman Shane was in this D&D campaign, and it was like he his bit was this, Richard, and I know you don't play D&D.
I'm following. I'm doing my best.
You roll dice to see if you can accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish, or you roll digital dice.
Sure.
And Shane was pretty notorious for
not being able to plug his headphones in.
Yeah. Hey, hold on a second. But he would do this bit pretty consistently, where he would go through an elaborate 15-step plan for what his character was going to do, rather than just saying, my bit was always, I'm going to hit it with my sword, or whatever. He had this big elaborate deal, lay it all out for 2 minutes, and then roll a 2. Just completely bodily. Well, no, you didn't do any of that because you rolled horribly on this thing. But yes, that was they did a good job of incorporating some of that stuff into it. Let's do that now. So Richard, you've not played any Dungeons and Dragons in your life. Did you feel like you were missing anything on this, or
that's what I was saying? Yeah, at the beginning, like I did I read a little bit before because I wanted to be a little,
And I mean, you host a movie podcast, like
I host a film podcast. I'm a serious journalist. But I read a little bit before, so I was aware of some of it. I wasn't really sure on like when you really described what would happen, like pre-roll. I didn't know if you had to lay that out before a series of rolls, things like that, but I got the general gist of it. And then, all that really worked. That's what I'm saying. They did a great job of, if there was stuff that's above my pay grade in terms of D&D, I never felt like I was missing it. I hope there was. I hope that there was just things flying by my head I didn't get. Because that's been my complaint. I do think, I'm trying to think in the order we should talk about this.
Sure.
I do, with this, as the Marvel world gets a little more complex, as it has to, because they've done all the basic stuff.
A little more.
Yeah. I do feel like that. I'm like, I only have a bachelor's in English literature. I didn't do a master's in comic. Like I feel very, all that. And so and then he ends up getting frustrated. I didn't feel that. I will say, this isn't a critique of this movie, but this is a watch out. I don't know the franchise potential when you're doing it this, not necessarily winky, but like this tone, I think tires pretty quick. I feel like
I think so too. I mean,
like they can't all be Thor Ragnarok, we've seen that. Right. And so like, it's awesome as a change up. I mean, not to use a baseball analogy, because God, we're talking D&D, but I'm not that nerdy. Talk baseball, but like, you throw your change up because your first pitch, it kind of can throw things off, and they kind of did with that, and that's fine. And you got to be. It makes an awesome first movie, and it's super fun. But I would be, if I was WB, which of course they're never, because they're just trying to get everything in. I would hesitate on like greenlighting 5 more of these, because I can see by movie 2.5, everyone's like, "No, I'm cool with this. I'm good. I get it. It's ha ha ha. Joke's on me."
Yeah, a couple of things. This is Paramount, not Warner Brothers, so there's at least a chance that they'll.
You're right.
That
I watched the Barbie trailer and saw the WB after this.
Totally,
so it was in my head.
Totally. I almost felt, because I had the same feeling of like, this is a whole lot of fun. I'll watch this again. I took Coop to see it. He loved it. That helps in these situations too. I'll definitely watch this again. I'll go back and see more of these if they do it. There is a part of me, though, that feels like they may have been able to work out a more, that they make. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Doing it this way makes sense because it's broad. It's obviously a lot of fun. That is a huge part of this, and why it works is that it's an enjoyable, fun time at the movies. But you're right that I think that can get old after a while. That can expire, and they may have been able to figure out a way to do a series of these by staying more towards the base audience, the kind of nerdy audience that really is into these things, because there's just, I mean, that's like what all of Dungeons and Dragons is campaigns and new modules and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of an endless supply of stories that you could work in. But then at the same time, there's no way that movie makes $40 million opening weekend like this one did. So it's it's kind of a tightrope of, obviously we know that every studio, their end goal is to create franchises so that they can run them into the ground for the rest of eternity. You can do this another time or two if in fact they decide to do that. I think the open kind of puts it's a good open. It's not a great open. We'll see what it does, internationally, but it kind of puts it right on the line of, is this a franchise? Is it not? Or more than likely than anything else, is it a thing we try to make a franchise that really just turns into a bad sequel or a lackluster sequel or something like that? If you just would have, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Meg, if you strip the budget down a little bit, and you try to make something that is a little less broad, but do you get something out of that has more legs in terms of series potential? I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
I don't know either. I don't know. It's so hard to do like box office math these days on what's gonna hit.
Sure, for sure.
Because I feel like the only things that are like really getting like a lot of money are something that would be like, oh, in the Dungeons and Dragons universe or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But sure. I don't know. The issue is, as much fun as I had with this movie, I don't care about almost any of the characters that much. So it's not like, oh, in movie 2, we have to go, XYZ was kidnapped, or his daughter was kidnapped again, and they have to go do, yada, yada, yada to free her there. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a single character in this that I was like, oh my gosh, well, I have to find out what happens to this character.
Yeah. I felt like maybe they were trying to do that a little bit with Paladin guy, with
Reggae got jumped
on. Quinn Dempsey.
Yeah.
Furman Paladin.
Right. I thought maybe that was a little bit of, there was at least like a thought somewhere in there, like, hey, if we do this well, we could spin this off into his own movie or his own series or something like that. I don't think that worked on that front like that. If you do more of these, you're banking on, I think, to your point, Meg, you're not really banking so much on character. You're banking on, here's the fun story that we're going to work through with these characters, which really, I mean, in some ways that does go back to the material, the source material with that's what Dungeons and Dragons is campaigns and stories and all that kind of stuff. So maybe there's some of that. I think it's a tricky one that Paramount has got to be trying to figure. I mean, I'm sure they're happy with $40 million. That's a good open. But it's not the kind of open where you immediately have greenlit 2 more, by Monday morning. So there's something to be said there. But I do think you're right, Richard. Like, I loved this. I had a great time with it. Again, I'll watch it several times, I'm sure. And I think they got a lot of things right. I don't know how easy it will be to go back to the well and recreate this another time or 2 or 5. And if Paramount was calling me into the room and asking for my advice on this, which they do frequently, obviously,
they have to start paying for that.
Yeah, it's true. Niche podcast hosts, we make so much in consulting fees, you guys, like so much. You have no idea. I would say, hey, to me, probably the move is to maybe try to do one of these again in like 4 or 5 years, something like that. Like, maybe we can give me go write your script. Let's get the idea, but let's I'm not sure that the public is demanding that we get one of these out by 2025. I think maybe this is something we get the right story. We can add another element. Maybe to your point, Meg, maybe we can figure out how to create a character in there somewhere on the next go around that is the character, not just the face, like Pine is, like maybe Rodriguez and Hugh Grant are to some degree. But we're gonna come back to this a little bit later. We don't want to avatar it, but we do want to we want to let this breathe a little bit, because if you try to do this cinematic universe every 2-3 years, I think you're gonna run out of steam really quickly, and it will result in the second or third movie having a $22 million open instead of a $40 million open, and then things become kind of disastrous on that front. But anyway, I thought this was a ton of fun, and I was really impressed with. So we got Richard's kind of perspective on, he doesn't know anything really about this, but doesn't really feel like he's missing out. I thought that was a genius part of this whole thing, Meg, was
definitely
the ability to make a movie that is broad and mass, at least to some extent. This is a solid open, like I said, not a great open, but regardless, it's a broad movie, but there's lots of little Easter eggs and inside jokes and stuff like that people who do play this game, that are in the base, for the base market, the base audience for this whole thing, can pick up on. And I think it just heightens their enjoyment, rather than leaving people who are on the outside feeling like, man, I didn't really get that, and I don't know why I didn't get it, but I didn't get it. So how did you feel about? Did they do a good job of incorporating enough Dungeons and Dragons into the Dungeons and Dragons movie, or what I don't know.
I think
go
so.
with wherever you feel like. On that.
I mean, I think it was a good mix of like. I get annoyed when things are like too fan servicey, but I think there were things that are like, if you play the game, then you would know that this creature is a displacer beast, and you would know how it works, and that it's going to disappear. So there might be a little thing where you're like, oh, his plan's going to work because, XYZ is going to happen.
For sure.
But it wasn't to the degree. I mean, I don't even think they're even like being like calling out what these things are, or saying like, oh, well, like as a paladin, he will XYZ. But then when he has the powers, you're like, oh yeah, that's what paladins do.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think they nailed that kind of tone level, at least.
I expected more of that stuff, and
I was happy that it was the level it was at.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I kind of walked out feeling not necessarily disappointed, because I had a great time with this. It was a lot of fun, but I was maybe slightly disappointed on that front. I was like, oh, I kind of expected more of that stuff. And then within 24 hours, like, no, I'm glad that they didn't do that. I think they showed a lot of restraint in letting those little Easter eggs just be Easter eggs, instead of massive moments of fan service. Or I think, again, what I think happens in those situations is you make a joke that is so that you draw so much attention to your joke that anyone who doesn't get the joke feels like, what? I don't get it,
and then
I don't
they
know
check out.
And exactly, and that doesn't do us any good. The Displacer Beasts were fun. The gelatinous cube was fun.
Classic.
The little references to things like Baldur's Gate and the medallion that lets her turn invisible, and just little mentions here and there. And you're totally right with the paladin thing. That was a perfect example of like what a paladin is like in that game, or can be like. And so I thought, that was a lot of fun, and was really well done without kind of leaving everybody else at their expense. So that was a smart play overall, and I think was indicative of how good these two are as screenwriters. This is a great. I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, you're always going to have your Sorkins and folks like that, but like they're up there now for me in terms of like. I mean, they're smarter,
the popcorn
fun
movie
type
too.
Of
like it's
not, for sure.
It's. I don't know.
Elevated popcorn is awesome, and I'm thankful that we, especially. I mean, Richard, we talk about this almost. It feels like every week. This year has been pretty dang solid on this front so far, but it often feels like we come on here and our big criticisms of a movie are the runtime, which they did pretty good with that on this one. A little long, but not anything that was just crazy. But like, how often, Richard, do we talk about how it feels like they spent $3 on the script and did no rewrites, no, you know what I mean? Which we know that they are doing all those things, but they're doing them in a way that does not highlight the writing. It's really nice to get movies. Everyone's M. Night Shyamalan's just standing right behind the bench in this game. It's so weird. Threw me off big time. Sorry.
Twist ending.
Yeah, he's just there. This is about to turn into a twist ending for Philly. It's fun to have something that is like I said, it's sort of elevated popcorn, and that doesn't take itself too seriously, and that understands that this is supposed to be fun. Number one, the biggest thing that it's supposed to be doing is to be fun and entertaining, and they seem to really understand that. So I dug that quite a bit. So it was good. It's good stuff. Do you guys have anything else, or we want to grade and weekly recommend this thing and get out of here?
I'm ready to grade.
Right.
Hold on, let me roll the dice.
I was wondering how long that was going to take. It's good. All right. Richard, what's your grade for Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves?
Really enjoyed it. Love the tone. Love the cast. Love the writing. Thought it was really intelligently done. Runtime was a little long, but not enough for me to give it a demerit. Because, still within the realm for what it was. All that great. Awesome. Where's some woods though? So B, some kind of orky things. I don't know. B+ for me.
Okay. B+. Meg, what about you?
I was gonna say B+. It was in the mix between B+ and A-, but I went B+.
Okay. Nice. I'm a little higher than you guys. I really enjoyed this. Thought it was a lot of fun. Glad that they got tone right, and that like I said, just seemed to understand, hey, the number one thing here is that we just have fun at the movies. And I dig that. And Chris Pine. So I'll go strong A-. This might bump up a little bit on the rewatch, but could come down the other way too. So I'll stick it A- for this one. So lots of fun. Had a good time with this, and we'll definitely, I'm sure, we'll rewatch in the future. So good stuff.
Do you want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere, and even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup's like, you can start creating today. Then, you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since we started using Spotify for Podcasters on Mad About Movies, it's made it super easy to get our show posted and out to all of the Man Fam. We highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
All right. Before we go home, let's do a little weekly recommends, yeah?
Weekly recommends.
Richard, what you got this week for us?
I knew you'd throw it at me first. I hadn't gotten my list yet. I'm sorry. No, you're good.
So sorry.
No, you're fine. I did the Summer Redstone book, right?
You did, yep.
Okay. I did not do Oscar Wars though, right? I need to start crossing these off. But sorry, I've been under it. Yeah, I don't think I did. So Michael Schulman, book about Oscar Wars. Have you read this, Meg? It seems like very up your alley.
It does, but I haven't.
Okay. So it kind of goes through the history of like really big Oscar campaigns throughout the year. I mean, literally like I think it starts with the first one, basically 1929. So there's a lot of film history in this, which I found really interesting. If you're interested in this show, and you're not one of these people that doesn't want to see movies before 2000, like that loser kid that studied film and didn't want to see Casablanca on Twitter this week. This is great edification, and also anything like this. The great thing about history is you just realize that we're all just in a cycle forever and are doomed to die within the cycle. So that's always I find that refreshing. So, Oscar Wars, Michael Schulman, really, really fun Hollywood book that came out this year. In the vein of, the guy that wrote the Michael Nichols book. I'm doing a great job tonight.
Yeah, I can't remember who the author of that was.
It's what's his name's husband, the great Steven Spielberg's writer. I cannot think of names tonight. Okay, Mark Harris. Here we go. This is great podcasting.
Yeah.
I'm really bad with the thing that's leaving my brain as I get older is like titles of things. Scenes or Pictures at a Revolution. In the vein of that, if you like that book, which is a great Hollywood book, this is up your alley.
Nice. Okay. That's good. That's a good recommend. Meg, what about you? What's your weekly recommend?
Okay. I know that I have a reputation here as being a real jock. But
that's what I always say.
Yeah. A side note, I did win my March Madness bracket.
Nice.
Which I'm sure infuriated a lot of people. But I recently re-downloaded The Sims, and I have sunk hours into it already. So The Sims 4, it's for free. There's a lot of packs you can add on that cost money. I haven't even splurged yet, but I'm having a great time playing The Sims, and I'm definitely doing great mentally.
Does this have anything to do? You mentioned before we started recording that you're moving into your first home.
I did.
Is this kind of a dress rehearsal kind of situation?
Can I tell you? I received floor plans. I designed a whole house based on the stuff I already have, and then immediately was like, "What if I had an unlimited budget?" and downloaded The Sims.
I love it. This is great. This is a good time. This is the stuff. This is why we have you on the show.
Yeah,
Mike,
no one else is going to be recommending The Sims in 2023, right?
Yeah, I didn't have that one on the bingo card for tonight. That's good. That's really good. Okay, I like it. I'm going to recommend a TV show. Let's see, I've got a list here. I'm trying to decide which way to go. Yeah, look, we've been nerdy tonight. Let's keep it going. Star Trek Picard season 3 on Paramount is so Star Trek-y and fun. I love it. It's a great time. I really liked season 1. These Star Trek shows are really, it's so interesting how because season 1 of Picard is pretty similar to season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, which both seem like it was like part of the plan. For the first couple episodes was just like, yeah, we got to show everybody how edgy we are now. This isn't your father's Star Trek. F-bomb. Just kind of weird. Like, I don't get offended by anything, but it's like, was that, did it feel organic to the story, or did it just feel like somebody went in and added a bunch of content to the script, like after it had already been approved? And that's kind of certainly how the first season of Discovery felt, and then they kind of like settled in and figured it out, and it became a pretty good show. Picard, like the first couple episodes, is a little bit rough, and it takes some time to get going, but it turns out to be, I think, a really good season of television. Season 2 is I didn't watch it until like a few weeks ago when season 3 started. I was like, oh yeah, I need to get back to that. Season 2 is kind of meh. Season 3 has basically become a Star Trek The Next Generation reunion show. Like they've brought back just about everybody at this point, and brought them into the fold, and are really giving it this is the kind of the last ride with Picard. This is the last season of the show, I believe. So this is kind of it for all these characters, and it's been really fun. I think we're 7 episodes into a 10 episode season, and it sort of has recaptured the magic, I think, of like what Star Trek should be on TV, and like even Next Generation is a great show. There's plenty of episodes, plenty of seasons, maybe even of Next Generation that aren't that awesome. But there's something to be said for like, but it's Star Trek. It's on TV, and that I don't know. I feel like TV is better when there's a good Star Trek show going on. So this has been a really good show, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit this season. So Star Trek Picard season 3 on Paramount Plus. So check that out. All right. This has been fun. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, we have more to offer you. We don't have a whole lot more of Meg, unfortunately, although you would make the show so much better, Meg. Anytime you want to sub in, we're always very happy to have you here.
Barbie.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. You got it. You got it.
My
Gosh,
claim,
I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for Barbie. That trailer was everything I wanted it to be today. That was a wonderful.
I'm wearing my
example of what
rollerblades right now.
You always have them with you.
I literally take them everywhere. Yeah, it's good. It's gonna be so much fun. So much fun. We should save it. That type of gauze. I love. I love so much. I love what he's clearly doing in this thing. So it's gonna be a good time. If you like what you heard here and you want more, we have a whole other feed to offer you. Go to madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP. Sign up for that. It's $5 a month. And you get access to at least one extra episode every single week where we do a throwback or retrospective on an older movie. Sometimes a movie as old as like Cleopatra. We did that a week or so ago. And sometimes a movie that came out 5-10 years ago. Something like that. We do lots of stuff like that. We have all kinds of bonuses. You get access to our very exclusive VIP Discord, where you can interact with us, but also you can interact with movie fans around the world, just like Meg. Again, madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP. Sign up for that. We'll be back next week talking about Super Mario Brothers. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you at the cinema. Bye.
Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
They're making me yah-yah. Your salads and scrambled eggs.
They're calling again.